Kenjaku, a crazy psychopath who acts with zero morals or conscience, seeing centuries of human suffering and destruction as nothing more than the byproduct of his insane experiment. And Jaco isn't your typical villain. He's a guy whose influence stretches across all of history. The Heian era, the age of the most evil sorcerer Noritoshi Kamo, the modern day, even the future, decades after his death. Kenjaku is an ancient entity, possibly older than most of the main Heian figures, maybe even from before the King of Curses himself. He got fucked up once by the Six Eyes wielder in the past, but he jumped into the future for revenge, to complete his 1,000-year-long insane plan. He's a mentally deranged freak, obsessed with seeing the results of something that defies logic and nature. His motives aren't driven by lust for power or political control, but by a pure inner desire to test the laws of cursed energy and existence itself. Grab your favorite snacks, because we're diving into the craziest, most terrifying mind in Jujutsu Kaisen. Kenjaku's main ability is his innate technique, basically a form of pseudo-immortality. He cheats death by transplanting his brain into the head of a dead person, taking over their body entirely. This way, Kenjaku has dodged death for centuries. Not only does he get a new lifespan each time, but he also gains full control over the host's body, cursed energy, memories, and most importantly, their innate technique. I'll get deeper into that ability later. But for now, let's focus on how he's been alive for hundreds of years and what his journey through time looked like. Kenjaku first appeared during the Heian era. At least that's what we know. Could have been around earlier, who knows? Back then, he tried to stop Tengen's merger, but got completely destroyed by the Six Eyes user at that time. That's when he realized he needed to find a way to neutralize the Six Eyes user if he ever wanted his plan to succeed. Then, 400 years before the current timeline, Kenjaku used an unnamed old sorcerer to make long-term preparations for his ultimate goal. During that time, he also made deals with other powerful sorcerers, so they'd be reincarnated in the modern era to participate in his final game, the Culling Game, like Kashimo. Then, 250 years later, came the real madness, the most twisted chapter in Kenjaku's history, the era that gave birth to our main character. Kenjaku possessed a man named Noritoshi Kamo. The shit he did in Kamo's body was so vile that Kamo became known as the most evil sorcerer in history. In Kamo's body, Kenjaku used Kamo's blood manipulation technique to conduct horrifying experiments. He impregnated a woman multiple times against her will, a woman said to give birth to half-human, half-spirit hybrids. This led to the creation of the 9 death paintings, cursed entities formed from distorted fusions of humans and sorcerers. They were prototypes, Kenjaku's first attempt to merge cursed energy with human biology. And yeah, Choso and his brothers are the results of that. But for Kenjaku, it was a failure. Didn't produce the results he wanted. This failure laid the groundwork for his next, far more precise biological experiment, Yuji Itadori. About 16 years before the main story, Kenjaku possessed Kaori Itadori's corpse, Yuji's mom, and gave birth to Yuji, for a reason, obviously, to create a strong vessel for the King of Curses, who'd appear years later. Then the last time we see Kenjaku, he's taken over Suguru Geto's body. That possession gave him Geto's cursed spirit manipulation, a key ability for the final stage of his plan, taking control of Tengen and forcing the merger with all of Japan's population. Having Geto's body also gave him a huge psychological advantage. Since Geto was Gojo's best friend, it allowed Kenjaku to pull off the most crucial part of his plan, sealing Gojo Satoru in the prison realm during the Shibuya incident. Without sealing the Six Eyes, his plan would have been impossible. That's why you can say Kenjaku actually managed to get partial revenge on the Six Eyes user. So, why all this chaos? Why the endless body hopping and centuries of bullshit? Obviously for something huge, right? Yep, he wants to create a new golden age of sorcery, similar to the Heian era, by forcing the evolution upon all humans in Japan, by merging the non-sorcerer population with Tenjin, turning everyone into sorcerers or beings beyond human limits. And all of that stems from pure curiosity. Kenjaku wants to push humanity and cursed energy to their absolute limits. Sure, this evolution would increase the overall cursed energy level in Japan, but it also bring total chaos, more curses, more destruction, more suffering. Even Kenjaku doesn't know how it'll end. What kind of monster would be born from Tenjin fused with 100 million humans? That's terrifying as fuck. And to pull this off, he started the insane Culling Game. This was the missing trigger for his plan, a survival game involving fighters and regular people from all across Japan and from different eras. He made sure it would work by carefully crafting the rules, like the one stating the game wouldn't end until everyone but him and Megumi Fushiguro was dead. That rule guaranteed that enough cursed energy would build up to kickstart the merger, no matter who won. Kenjaku's relationship with Sukuna was also crucial. They made a binding vow back in the Heian era. Kenjaku would help Sukuna fully resurrect by creating a suitable vessel, Yuji Itadori. This pact ensured Sukuna's return and in turn gave Kenjaku the chaos he needed. Sukuna's presence in the Culling Game meant rivers of blood, exactly what Kenjaku wanted to fuel his plan. When it comes to his family, the death paintings, Joso, Yuji, there's zero emotion involved. Kenjaku created and engineered all of them purely as test subjects for different stages of his experiment. The death paintings were disposable prototypes, and Yuji was the successful vessel engineered for Sukuna. Kenjaku doesn't give a single fuck about anyone. Not his kids, not Sukuna, not anyone. They're all tools. But here's the real question. Is Kenjaku truly a mastermind or just a lucky gambler? He's always described as a brilliant strategist, maybe the smartest in the series, but luck's been on his side more than once, like Toji's interference speeding up Tengen's evolution, or the spontaneous birth of disaster curses like Mahito. So maybe his true genius isn't in pure intellect, but in adaptability, his unmatched ability to turn chaos into advantage. He sets the foundations, the contracts, the vessels, and that makes almost any unpredictable event end up working for him. Kenjaku's a master at using history itself as a weapon, turning random shit into steps that seem like it was all part of the plan. His ability to instantly read evolving situations and tear apart enemy strategies is second to none. Kenjaku isn't historically powerful like Gojo or Sukuna, but he's mastered countless bodies and abilities over the centuries, making him insanely dangerous. First, his own innate technique, brain transplant, keeps him young forever, letting him live through endless hosts. When he takes over a body, he gains its cursed energy, technique, and memories. Even the six eyes can't tell he's a fake, since he perfectly replicates the host's cursed energy signature. But the technique can't fully erase the host's soul, like how Geto's body resisted him in Shibuya. There's also a limit to how much information his brain can hold, so he has to choose which cursed techniques to keep carefully. Second, cursed spirit manipulation. The ability to summon and control naturally formed cursed spirits, inherited from Geno's body. Thanks to this, Kenjaku commands an army of cursed spirits, each with unique abilities. One of them was the smallpox deity, a special grade curse strong enough to trot Mei Mei in its domain if her brother hadn't distracted it long enough for her to kill it. Third, anti-gravity system. Super useful during his fight with Yuki and Choso. It nullifies gravity and lets him manipulate gravitational forces however he wants. This one originally belonged to Kaori Itadori, Yuji's mom, but of course he stole it like everything else. Fourth, womb perfusion. Kenjaku's recognized as the second best barrier user in history, only behind Tengen. This is a domain expansion with no barrier, something only Sukuna has also pulled off. It shows Kenjaku's god-tier mastery over cursed energy and boundaries. His domain manifests as a massive column of cursed spirits. Fifth, idol transfiguration. He got Mahito's technique and used it once, allowing him to reshape souls, including his own. He used it on Tengen's barrier remotely to start the Culling Game by altering the souls of people he'd marked over the years. In the end, none of that saved him from the pride of the Gojo clan, Yuta Akotsu. Someone had to stop the madness. There's no way Kenjaku could have finished his plan completely. He was taken down by a coordinated strike from Yuta and Takaba, who cut off his head and ripped his brain right out of Geto's body. As he died, Kenjaku smiled and said, My legacy will live on. That line proves his motive was never survival. It was always about proving his theory, the forced evolution of humanity. His death only passed the torch to Sukuna, the last remaining embodiment of chaos, and we all know what happens next. Kenjaku is the central antagonist of Jujutsu Kaisen, the biggest strategic threat in the entire series. His history shows he sees humans and Jujutsu society as stagnant systems that need to be evolved by force. But his real strength wasn't in raw power. He's weaker than Gojo and Sukuna. It was in his intelligence and long-term planning. With his vast knowledge, he manipulated the fate of the world through complex schemes like the Culling Game and Tengen's merger. Systems so massive, they kept running even after his death. Kenjaku's true legacy isn't his power, but how he permanently reshaped the very structure of the world. To him, existence itself was just one giant experiment, and humanity were merely test subjects. Even his death was just another step in his grand experiment to trigger his final existential theory.